When you wake up in the morning, you are standing at the doorway of a brand new day, a day that has never existed before, a day full of choices, pressures, blessings, opportunities, and challenges you may not even see coming. And the very first moments of that day matter more than most people ever realize. Those first moments are like the steering wheel of the entire day. They set the direction, they set the atmosphere, they set the tone. And when you take those first moments and invite God into them, something begins to shift deep within you. Your spirit wakes up before your mind fully does. Your heart becomes aware of His presence. You begin the day with a strength that doesn't come from sleep, but from the one who never sleeps. You begin the day from a place of victory instead of reaction. You begin with Him, and starting with Him changes everything. Many people start their day in a hurry. They wake up already behind. They reach for their phone before they reach for peace. They let notifications, messages, pressure, and noise set the first notes of their morning. And because they let the world in first, the world pulls them in every direction before they have even found their footing. But when you invite God first into your day, you reclaim your focus. You refuse to let life define your atmosphere. You choose to set your heart in the presence of the one who knows the beginning from the end. You choose to hear His voice before you hear the world's voice. You choose to receive His peace before facing any pressure, and that simple act shifts the spiritual climate of your entire day. There is something powerful about offering God the first part of your morning. Not out of ritual, not out of obligation, but out of relationship. When you wake up and say, "Father, I give you this day," you are opening the door of your heart to His guidance. You are acknowledging your need for His strength. You are surrendering your schedule, your emotions, your decisions, and your direction to the one who sees every moment before it arrives. Inviting God first is not about length. It's about priority. It's about saying, "Before I move, you lead. Before I decide, you guide. Before I speak, you fill my heart." When you make Him your first conversation, the rest of your conversations carry His presence. When you invite God first, your spirit becomes anchored. Instead of starting the day drifting with every emotion, you start with stability. Instead of waking up with worry, you wake up with trust. Instead of feeling weighed down by everything waiting for you, you feel lifted by the one who walks with you. The enemy tries to attack believers in the early moments of the day because he knows if he can influence your first thoughts, he can influence your path. But when your first thoughts belong to God, the enemy loses his foothold. You step into the day covered, strengthened, and spiritually awake. The first moments of your day are when your heart is the most open. Your spirit is quiet. Your mind has not yet been filled with demands. That is the perfect time to let God speak. Sometimes He will give you a scripture. Sometimes He will give you a sense of peace. Sometimes He will give you a warning to pay attention to. Sometimes He will give you confidence that carries you through the day. But you only receive what He wants to deposit when you open the door to Him first. A heart that invites God early becomes a heart that hears Him clearly. Inviting God first also realigns your priorities. It reminds you that you are not running your life alone. You are not walking through your day in your own strength. You are not dependent on your own understanding. You are acknowledging that you have a helper, a guide, a shepherd, a source who goes ahead of you. When you begin with Him, the stress that once felt heavy becomes lighter. The decisions that once felt overwhelming become clearer. The challenges that once felt intimidating shrink in the light of His presence. You walk differently when you start with Him. You think differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. You carry a calmness that others can feel but can't explain. When you invite God first, you give Him permission to interrupt your plans and replace them with His. And His plans are always wiser, safer, richer, and better than anything you could have arranged. Sometimes you will feel Him gently nudging you in a different direction. Sometimes you will sense Him slowing you down when you want to rush. Sometimes He will highlight someone you need to encourage, a conversation you need to have, a temptation you need to avoid. And because you started your day with him, you recognize his leading when it comes. The first moments with God set a spiritual shield around you. You walk into situations with discernment. You step into conversations with grace. You face challenges with confidence because you already met with the one who holds every answer. Even if unexpected things arise, your heart stays steady because you started steady. Even if people around you are tense, your spirit remains calm because you started in peace. Even if you face decisions that require wisdom, that wisdom flows because you began by connecting with the source of wisdom. Inviting God first is how you declare, "This day will not run me. This day will not control me. I walk into this day with God, guided, empowered, and covered." It's how you take authority over your spiritual atmosphere. It's how you make room for God to reveal his purpose one step at a time. It's how you keep your heart tender, your ears open, and your spirit sensitive. It's how you stay aligned with the Spirit before life tries to pull you off course. When you make inviting God first a daily rhythm, your whole life begins to shift. Your reactions change, your relationships deepen, your decisions improve, your peace increases, your sensitivity sharpens. And the presence you welcome in the first moments of your day becomes the presence that carries you through every moment that follows. There is something powerful about meeting with God before the demands of the day have a chance to weigh on your heart. When you enter his presence first, you receive strength before you even know what you will need strength for. You receive peace before the day has a chance to trouble you. You receive clarity before decisions appear. You receive courage before pressure rises. God does not want you to stumble into the day unprepared, reacting to whatever comes. He wants you fortified, equipped, and spiritually awake before you step into anything. And that strength is not something you must earn. It comes simply because you came to him first. Every day carries unknowns. People may surprise you. Circumstances may shift. Unexpected challenges may arise. But when you start your day with God, nothing catches your spirit off guard. Your heart may be surprised, but your spirit stands steady because the one who lives within you has already strengthened you. Before the enemy even thinks about placing pressure on you, God has already placed power in you. Before fear tries to whisper, faith has already risen. Before confusion tries to cloud your thoughts, wisdom has already been deposited. You walk into the day carrying something you did not have on your own, something divine, something that keeps you from being easily shaken. Spending time in God's presence is like putting on spiritual armor before stepping onto the battlefield of everyday life. Without that time, you may face the day sensitive to stress and vulnerable to discouragement. But with that time, you face the day spiritually clothed, emotionally balanced, mentally clear, and inwardly covered. You may not know what is coming, but the Spirit who strengthens you does. And when you start with him, he prepares you in ways you cannot see, but will absolutely feel later. There are conversations that will require patience, and the Lord fills you with grace before you even have them. There are decisions that will require wisdom, and the Lord settles clarity into your heart before you know you'll need it. There are moments that will try to pull you into worry, but you already received peace that morning, so the worry has nothing to grip. There are temptations that will try to lure you into distraction, but your spirit is awake and alert, able to say no because you already said yes to God earlier. When you invite God first, he strengthens your inner man. Not your emotions, not your intellect, but your spirit. Your spirit becomes firm, grounded, and settled. It becomes more aware of his voice and less moved by whatever comes against you. A strengthened spirit can handle things a weakened spirit collapses under. A strengthened spirit can see through things a distracted spirit misses, and that strength doesn't come by accident. It comes by seeking him first, before anything else demands your attention. Sometimes God will strengthen you in ways you cannot articulate, but can sense deeply. You may finish your time with him and think nothing unusual happened. Yet later in the day you'll face something difficult and realize you're responding with unusual calmness. That calmness didn't come from personality, it came from His presence. There will be days when something tries to provoke you, but the patience God gave you early in the morning rises up and keeps you from reacting. There will be days when discouragement tries to enter, but the courage He breathed into you in the morning pushes back the heaviness. He equips you in ways you don't always recognize at first, but you see the evidence as the day unfolds. Strength from God is not loud, it's steady, it doesn't always feel dramatic, it feels stable. It feels like a quiet assurance that you can handle what comes because you are not handling it alone. It feels like an anchor inside you that refuses to let circumstances control your attitude. It feels like a spiritual backbone that keeps you standing straight when pressure tries to bend you. When you start your day with God, you walk in a strength that belongs to Him but operates in you. There is also a supernatural guarding that happens when you begin with God. His presence becomes a shield around your heart. Things that would have irritated you slide off. Things that would have drained you lose their power. Things that would have confused you fail to distract. This is why some days feel heavier when you skip those first moments with Him. You stepped into the day spiritually unprotected. But when you start with Him, your spirit is strengthened and covered. The enemy hopes you rush into the day without seeking God, because a distracted spirit is easier to pressure, confuse, or exhaust. But a strengthened spirit, a spirit filled early with God's presence, is a spirit that can discern, endure, and overcome. Inviting God first gives you the supernatural advantage of being prepared before the challenges even appear. You don't wait for trouble to seek strength. You seek strength before trouble even knows where to find you. When you meet with God first, you're not just beginning your day, you're building your day on a foundation that cannot be shaken. You're stepping into everything ahead with strength that comes straight from heaven, strength that carries you from morning to night, strength that makes you victorious before the battle even begins. There is a reason the early moments of the day are so spiritually important. Your mind is quiet, your emotions have not yet been triggered, your heart is more open. It's in those first moments that your spirit is most ready to hear. And when you choose to meet with God in that quiet space, you are tuning your spirit to His voice. You are aligning your heart with His leading. You are positioning yourself to recognize His whisper throughout the day. Morning fellowship is not just devotional time, it is spiritual tuning. It is adjusting your inner frequency to match the Spirit's frequency so that when He speaks later, your heart picks it up instantly. God speaks to His children all day long. But many do not recognize His voice because their spirit wasn't tuned before the noise began. When you meet with Him early, you learn the sound of His peace, you learn the feel of His guidance, you learn the difference between His leading and your own thoughts, you learn what feels like Him and what does not. That early fellowship creates spiritual awareness that stays with you no matter where you go or what you face. When your spirit is tuned, you become sensitive to subtle promptings. You sense when God is nudging you to pause. You sense when He is urging you to move. You sense when He is highlighting someone for you to pray for. You sense when He is warning you about something ahead. These signals are often gentle, but a tuned spirit picks them up clearly. An untuned spirit misses them, and the tuning happens in those early moments of fellowship before the world gets loud. Morning fellowship is not about performance. It's about connection. It's not about how much you read or how long you pray. It's about turning your heart toward Him and inviting His presence to shape the posture of your day. Sometimes He will speak through Scripture. Sometimes He will speak through a gentle impression. Sometimes He will speak through a sense of stillness that settles over you. Sometimes He will speak by reminding you of something He has already told you. But every time you show up, He tunes your heart a little more. You can always tell when someone has been with God in the morning. Their spirit reacts differently. Their peace is harder to shake. Their discernment is sharper. Their decisions come with more confidence. Their words carry grace. Their steps carry awareness. There is a spiritual sensitivity about them that others may not understand, but can feel. They started their day attuned to heaven, and heaven stayed with them throughout the day. Tuning your spirit in the morning also helps you separate God's voice from emotional noise. Emotions can be loud, impulsive, reactive, and unstable. But God's voice is calm, steady, pure, and peace-filled. When you tune your spirit early, you can tell the difference. You stop mistaking anxiety for warning. You stop mistaking excitement for direction. You stop mistaking pressure for urgency. You begin to discern the tone of God's leading because you heard it first in the quiet morning. Fellowship also increases your inner clarity. Some days you will wake up unsure, but after meeting with God, clarity rises. Some days you will wake up heavy, but after meeting with Him, the heaviness lifts. Some days you will wake up confused, but His presence brings alignment. When your spirit is tuned, your day becomes guided instead of chaotic. Your heart becomes peaceful instead of scattered. Your mind becomes focused instead of overwhelmed. The Holy Spirit speaks throughout the day, but tuning your heart in the morning gives you the advantage of hearing Him quickly, recognizing Him easily, and responding to Him confidently. That early fellowship sets the tone of sensitivity that carries you through every conversation, every decision, every challenge, and every victory. A tuned spirit is a guided spirit, and a guided spirit is a victorious spirit. Distraction is one of the enemy's most effective tools. Not destruction, not disaster, distraction. If he can't make you fall, he tries to make you busy. If he can't make you sin, he tries to make you scattered. If he can't make you rebel, he tries to make you unfocused. And if you start your day without inviting God first, those distractions slip in unnoticed and begin steering your emotions, your thoughts, and your decisions. But when you begin with God, you break the power of distraction before it ever gets a chance to control your day. Distraction is subtle. It doesn't always come as something obviously harmful. It often comes as something small, seemingly harmless, but time-consuming. You plan to pray, but your phone captures your attention. You plan to read the Word, but your mind drifts toward tasks. You plan to sit with God, but your emotions pull you toward stress. The enemy knows if he can steal your first moments, he can often influence the rest of your day. But when you invite God first, you shut the door on distraction before it enters. Starting with God teaches your heart to focus. It trains your mind to quiet down. It teaches your emotions to submit to peace. It pulls your spirit into alignment so that the noise of the world cannot easily scatter you. When your first attention goes to God, your attention throughout the day becomes harder for the enemy to steal. You become more aware when distraction tries to pull you away. You sense it earlier. You resist it easier. You overcome it quicker. The first moments with God set a tone of discipline in your spirit that distractions struggle to break. When you meet with God first, you also break the cycle of mental clutter. Your mind stops rushing ahead. Your thoughts stop scattering in every direction. Your priorities fall into place. You see clearly what matters and what doesn't. Many people battle distraction because their mind is overloaded. But when God becomes your first focus, clarity washes over your mind like fresh wind. The clutter clears, the fog lifts. You think from a place of peace instead of pressure. Distraction also loses power when your spirit is full. An empty spirit is easily distracted. A weak spirit is easily pulled off course. A restless spirit is easily overwhelmed. But a spirit filled early with God's presence becomes stable, focused, attentive, and alert. You can feel when something is pulling you away from His peace. You can sense when something is draining your focus. You become aware when something is trying to dim your awareness of God. And because you started with Him, you refuse to give distraction the power it once had. Inviting God first also breaks the power of inward distraction. Worry, overthinking, fear, emotional noise, self-imposed pressure. When God becomes your focus, those internal distractions begin to quiet. You stop carrying the weight of things you were never meant to carry. You stop entertaining thoughts that drain your peace. You stop letting worry determine your mood. You begin the day spiritually settled, and that settledness becomes your protection against internal chaos when distractions come later in the day. And they will. You respond differently because you started differently. You are not as pulled. You are not as shaken. You are not as overwhelmed. You have an inner anchor that keeps you from drifting. The distraction may appear, but your spirit does not lose focus easily. You stand firm because you met with God before you met with anything else. Inviting God first breaks the power of distraction because it gives your spirit a focus the world cannot compete with. When God becomes your first priority, everything else must take its rightful place. And the more consistently you begin with Him, the easier it becomes to recognize and resist anything that tries to pull you away from His presence throughout the day.